Greetings to you, greetings. Greetings to you. I just got a sudden, and let me rephrase that. My head suddenly begins to ache. Suddenly. I was reading something, and this headache just appeared. And this usually happens whenever a kind of stress trauma enters my being, be it emotional, be it physical. But I'm pondering about what I want to say today. And I feel a sense of kinship to the struggle that the People's Progressive Party seemingly can never be freed from. It's like this perpetual chastisement that the People's Progressive Party can never escape. But what this is doing, it is causing the PPP to garner more support from Guyanese, within and without Guyana's borders. You see, I can't understand that after such an election as September 1st, where the whole process, the planning, the execution, and the aftermath of the elections would go down in history, as the best election in Guyana. Caribbean nations are envious of the elections that Guyanese executed on September 1st, 2025. Right there in neighboring Suriname. The recent elections in Suriname was not even close to the success of the elections in Guyana, September 1st. The elections in Guyana was a huge disappointment to organizations like the GHRA, the ERC, Human Rights Watch, and all these organizations that has a reputation of being anti-Indo Guyanese. This is not about the PPP. These organizations, from their inception, from their genesis, from their beginning, they had a mandate to be in opposition of the Indo-Guyanese community. That is what drives these organizations. That's what drives them. So anything the Indo-Guyanese touches would not have the blessings of any of these so-called NGOs or non-governmental organizations. That's how they present themselves, as non-governmental, but yet they meddle in politics. Yet they interfere, they conspire, they associate, they collude with opposition political parties that has a reputation, that has a track record of being against Indo-Guyanese and the PPP. We can't run from that. Listen, I've said many times, I don't have to be politically correct. So I can say it as it is. All of the NGOs in Guyana, the ones that are notable, the ones that are there before I was born, they have a track record that is consistent with being prejudiced, being biased, and being continually opposed to Indo-Guyanese culture, lifestyle, and politics. So no matter what you do, no matter how you prospect this situation, it comes down that they will never approve of anything that comes out of an Indo-Guyanese organization or politics. And it is perceived, it is sold, and even when you look at the international news that covers politics in Guyana, what they push is that the Irfan Ali government or the PPP regime or PPP party, it is pro-Indo-Guyanese and it is opposed to Afro-Guyanese. They sell that narrative. So organizations abroad, now social media seem to be the thing. That's what everybody, the idea that everybody that does not live within Guyana, they understand that a People's Progressive Party, headed by Jaglio, and now whose president is Irfan Ali, is against Afro-Guyanese. The people abroad, that's the perception they have. And they use this narrative to gain sympathy from the diaspora, sympathy for Afro-Guyanese, but prejudiced against Indo-Guyanese. And at the end of the day, this makes our country look bad, be it crime or racial discrimination. Guyana doesn't appear good in the eyes of the rest of the world. It doesn't. More people came to Guyana this time, more observers, more critics, more persons who came to look for something that they can use to validate their narrative that Irfan Ali and the PPP are racial, racist, corrupt, and they intend to rig the election to stay in power as to secure the oil money. That is what they pushed months before the election, and that is what they came because they want to catch the operatives of the PPP and President Ali in the act of their suspicion. So they came, and they self-said it. OAS, the UN, CARICOM, they self-said it, that their team this time is larger compared to years before. Why would they want to bring a larger crowd this time? What's so different? The Guyanese population hasn't increased that much. It's the same procedure. Why do you need more observers than you had in 2020 or 2015? Because there was a collective plan to work against the success of the PPP. Therein, united in that agenda, that if one person is caught in any fraudulent act, they all would come together and pronounce on it, therein forcing either a re-election, a disqualification, or they can broadcast that the elections were fraudulent. Therefore, the presidency is not legitimate, like the PNC pushed in 2020. They held on that for years. Isn't that one of the reasons why the former leader of the opposition, Norton, had refused to shake the hand of President Ali early in 2022, 2023? Because he said that he don't recognize Ali as a legitimate president. They were pushing for all of that, and they were still pushing for it now. The GHRA, the Guyana Human Rights Association, that was established around 1979, around that time, were consistent in one thing. You see, you would think that the GHRA would have been established to protect and to speak out against the atrocities that were meted out to the Guyanese people by the hands of the PNC. Because that was still the PNC regime at that time. You would think that was their purpose. But they saw, the PNC saw the writing on the wall that their days were numbered. So they scrambled to gain control of all of these NGOs, that in case if they never have a chance again at government, they would control the mechanism that can shake the smooth fabric of society, break down law and order, and they can conspire to destabilize the government and the people of Guyana. Because that is what these organizations do. Trade union, the teachers union, GHRA, all these organizations, they work with one agenda: to be in opposition to the PPP regime. Therein they have a united stand when it comes to fighting against the PPP governments. Jaglio, Janet, they're the ones. They have a track record for that. None of these organizations are credible. None of them. They recycle the same people. The same people. So we have today, after the elections were largely declared, unanimously declared, free, fair, and the best, not one of the best election in the history of Guyana, that was declared. Nobody disputed that. The opposition leader then, who tried to manipulate the system, had to brace the wall. His back couldn't go further, and he had to face the truth that what he was trying to accomplish was impossible, because this is one of the time where they have nothing whatsoever to use to destabilize Guyana society or make it impossible for Ali's second term to be a reality. They had nothing. He had to concede. He had to concede. But that's not enough. All the foreigners, the foreign organization, you see, Guyana seemed to have this weakness for foreigners. Politics in Guyana law and order in Guyana or the justice system seem to have a weakness. Everything is the foreigners. Oh, the foreigners. We can't trust our own people. Oh, the foreigners. Bring the foreigners. Bring the foreigners. Well, the foreigners came like they always do, and they spy. They spy on the Guyanese electoral process. They spy on it to see if they can find something to use to disrupt President Ali's second chance. All were working together. Carter sent to everybody, but they found nothing. They too had to humble and come to the point and say, well, in my own words, I'm interpreting what they actually wanted to say. And look, in this sense, I'm an idiot. So the idiot is saying that I understand all the organizations who came to observe the election. I understand them to say, how I interpret them. Remember, I'm an idiot right now, so my common sense may not be working. But based on the little my common sense is working, I am interpreting what these other people were saying. Well, we are forced to conclude that beyond a shadow of a doubt, that this is Guyana's best election. Irfan Ali won the election free and fair. The large majority of the Guyanese wanted to reinstall President Irfan Ali and the PPP because they trust the PPP, they believed in the PPP, they have faith in the PPP, they saw the work, they saw the progress, they saw everything that the PPP government has done for the past 5 years. Guyanese love the PPP, and they voted for the PPP against these other people. And all the persons who came out and spoke on behalf of the PPP, they did it willingly, happily, and they were proud to do it, like me. So the PPP did not use the apparatus of the state. The PPP did not use state media. The PPP did not use state functionary to further their chances of re-election. No, we acknowledge that the PPP won the election free and fair. Therefore, we are signing off on that fact that this election 2025 September, Irfan Ali won freely by a large majority. Now, the idiot, me, that's how I interpret what all these organizations wanted to say. They try to play around with words and play around with, oh, well, you know, we have suggested before that they should have some kind of a monitor system with campaign, financial, election days, you know, this, oh, fuck all of that. What they wanted to say is what I just said, that the PPP won outright, free and fair. But because of their prejudice and their bias for Indo-Guyanese and the PPP that they perceived and they're selling to the rest of the world, only looks after the interests of Indo-Guyanese, therefore the PPP is racial, they want to say that the PPP didn't win free and fair. But they couldn't say it because it's not the fact. Still, despite all of that, you have actual unpatriotic Guyanese, like these people from the GHRA. Now, the GHRA is not a constitutionally established body. They put that organization together in 1979. So not because it's called Guyana Human Rights Association. They don't represent Guyana human rights. They represent whoever there or whatever party can give them the most funding. They represent them. And it seemed like the PNC is sympathetic to them, or they're sympathetic to the PNC. They have never been critical of the PNC. And look how much happened to Guyanese citizens under the PNC rule. Not just 2015, 2020, before, during Hoyt. Look how much happened. Where were they? Where were the GRA and all the others when it came to talking against the atrocities that the other ethnic groups in Guyana continue to face? You talk about human rights. You can't only talk for the rights of the PNC supporters. Human rights is human rights. It's across the board. Every human is a human. So you now would have the audacity to come out, despite this is a conclusive finding. It is conclusive, signed off on. You came out after the elections are finished, closed, signed off on, the president swearing. After that, you're going to come now, GRA, and want to push an idea that Irfan Ali is illegitimate. He's a fraud. The PPP stole the elections. It was not free and fair. That's what you're trying to push. You're trying to incite unrest. You're trying to weaponize the PNC. You're trying to give Aubrey Norton some kind of hope that they can start some disturbance. Because, well, look, the GRA came out and said, look, this was a stolen election. You see, I was right. I was right. Look, you see, look, the GRA. Look, this one, look, this one. Is that what you are hoping to accomplish? You people are unpatriotic. Why is it that this man, McCormick, why are these men that should be retired? They obviously have issues with their brain. Why do they still occupy these positions therein having influences over the lives of Guyanese? Why do these people still keep recycling and occupying these positions? What, because he had some kind of influence in the forming of the party, of the organization? The GRA doesn't belong to the people who are there right now. Were they the ones who started the organization? Were they the founders? Did McCormick and these other people sat how many years ago, 1979, and say, hey, we need to start an organization. We'll call it the Guyana Human Rights Association. So the three of us will go and we'll form this, and we're going to rotate our president. We're going to rotate from time to time. Is that how it worked? How did the organization came up? Was it the government who mandated a committee to start that organization? Was it the religious community? How did it came about? Because the way it has been functioning for decades, it is with a partisan agenda. Always seem to be against the PPP, the People's Progressive Party governments and presidents. Always. And look how much wrong the PNC had done historically up to 2020 against the Guyanese people. Why don't we have the same passion from these organizations like the GRA when it comes to condemning crimes and condemning corruption from PNC administrations? When can these firms, these organizations be audited? See where their money is going, who's funding them, who gets what? That's what you're supposed to provide tax information. Even if you are an NGO, you need to provide this information. Let's know how much your persons are being paid, how you spend this money. You need to have an audit. When would you have an audit for the GRA? For the ERC? And all these organizations controlled by the PNC. When would you have an audit? And how much money does the government budget to go to these organizations? How much money? How much money goes to these organizations from the state? And it's not the state's money, it's taxpayers' money. But how much goes there? And how do they spend it? This thing should be public information. You're supposed to go to the GRA website and pull up the file, because these these information should be public, so you know how these organizations are run. There shouldn't be anything secret about it. They want to keep that information secret and private. You can't get access to their books, but then they're meddling in the political world of Guyana. You are an NGO. You're not a political organization. You're not a political party, or are you? Or are you a political party? If you are an NGO, why are you pronouncing on political issues? What does an election has to do with the functions of the Guyana Human Rights Association? It's a constitutional right for people to vote, not a human right. It's a constitutional right. And people still stay home on election day because they choose to. So you now getting involved, and the man just swear in. He hasn't even named his cabinet yet. The man is busy working practically single-handedly as a president. He didn't take a break and say, hey, let me put this cabinet together, let me swear everybody in, then we're going to start to work. No. The man's busy working. Look how quick the swearing happened, and he's back to work. No vacation, no celebration, none of that. He didn't even get time to call me and say, hey, brother, thanks. That's how busy he is. And you are already on the man's case. You want to delegitimize the Ali election. You want to push a narrative that this election is not real. So when people go out to do their shit, they're going to feel justified. Oh, the GRA said that the elections was not free and fair. Then what else do you get? Tell me something. If a game is planned and executed, and the judges, the referee said the game was not free and fair, what is the next move? What is the next move? The winners are disqualified. The trophy is taken back. The game is considered null and void. And you have to start the process again. That's what free and fair means. So coming out and saying that crap, GRA, what do you hope to accomplish? You want to start disturbance? You want protests to start? You want them blacks, them vulnerable blacks, to now think, hey, yeah, right. And Norton is going to resurrect and come and say, well, let's go out. Let's protest. Because I should be opposition leader. No, I should be president because the elections was not free and fair. He start pushing that shit first. Norton starts saying that first. And days after, you have the GRA bringing out press statements. Wouldn't it be justifiable to conclude that the position the GRA has taken, that it was influenced by the PNC and Aubrey Norton? It would be fair to draw that conclusion, because Norton is the one that was pushing that. But it seemed like nobody else is taking it up. He's now pressuring these organizations that they control to say, hey, make a statement. Start saying that it was not free and fair. Then I'll pick it up back from that. And then you're going to stand behind me, and we can now go on the streets. We can protest. We can call for fresh elections. I am sure that Norton inspired that. But despite this situation now, let's take a look back. The GRA and this organization has a reputation to be against the People's Progressive Party. They are known for that. Why is it so? Because all the persons who sits in the leadership of these organizations are PNC supporters, Black, Afro-Guyanese. I hate to keep pushing this narrative. And I think I'm going to be one of the persons to stop doing it. that the black people largely support the PNC. I think I would quit with that. It's not true. The black people in Guyana don't support the PNC. Whenever the PNC secured their votes, whenever they did, it's not just because of black people. They managed to seduce other people too. The PNC is not a black party. They don't identify with black people. They use the black people. They manipulate the black people. They take advantage of the black people. They play on the sentiment of the black man. But they're not a black party. All those leaders they have there, like their Afro-Guyanese leaders, is just to fool the blacks that, hey, you see, your leaders are black, so it means you need to support the PNC. It's a lie. It's deception. The PNC is an organization that are there to keep a certain status quo. They're there to keep a certain idea, certain ideology that suits whoever their sponsors are. But it's not a party for the people. You see the difference with the name? The People's Progressive Party as against the People's National Congress. See the difference? This is why the PPP always enjoy a large support of the Guyanese people. People support the PPP. Business support the PNC. Politics support the PNC. The PPP supporters are the people of Guyana. So as a person now, and my interest is the people of Guyana, I want to know what the agenda is of organizations like the GHRA and all these other organizations. You know who they are. You've been reading the news. You heard them come out. What are you hoping to achieve? You want fresh elections? You want to denounce the president? You want the country to run the next 5 years in opposition to the president? That's what you're looking for? Is that how you stay in business? When there is a alleged complaint about human rights violation, that's what you look for? All these useless reporters like Travis Chase and these others, you are the one they run to when they claim that the government is discriminating against them. You are there to look out for the interests of the PNC supporters and PNC pundits. Is that your function, GHRA? Then why are you sucking up to the government for funds? Why are you getting government grants? You are working against the government, but yet you're spending the government's money. Yet the government is funding you, but you're working against the government. For what? You think you can earn more under the PNC? You think the PNC gives more? Then let's look at the facts. Let's see how much grant you got 2015, 2020, and how much you got from 2020, 2025. Let's see. The Irfan Ali re-election was the best, the fairest, the most free, internationally recognized and pronounced upon as the best in the history of Guyana and even CARICOM. That you cannot dispute. So we get that out of the way. The elections were free and fair. The PNC lost because the Afro-Guyanese don't want to be associated with them anymore. The PNC lost. The Afro-Guyanese demonstrated to the rest of the world that they are not a racial group. If they were a racial group, they would have voted for the 4 black parties and not the 2 Indo-Guyanese parties. To demonstrate to the world that the Afro-Guyanese are not racial, they voted against the black parties and for the Indo-Guyanese parties, namely the PPP Civic and WIN, Reinvest in Nationhood. Maybe I shouldn't have said we invest in Negroes. Maybe that also caused a lot of the Negroes to vote for WIN, because I was telling them, hey, this guy is going to invest in you, so you should vote for him. You see, words matter. Words matter. Anyway, the Afro-Guyanese showed that, hey, we're not racial. We're going to vote for the Indians. And they did. They delivered their worst loss. Even when they had all these other parties in the past, the United Front or Force, AFC, PNC, WPA, all these other parties, they had so many in the past. Yet the PNC held on to their base, their so-called base. All those parties have been eliminated from 29 to 6. And still, the country elected the party they always loved, the PPP Civic. So how is this not a free and fair election? Is it the PPP's fault that a large number of the Afro-Guyanese didn't come out to vote? And this other thing that they're pushing, that a lot of the people in the PPP base didn't come out. That's not true. That's not true. The PPP base, that you want to call the PPP base, is not pro-Indian neighborhoods. You have a lot of other ethnicity living in those neighborhoods. It's the Afro-Guyanese in the PPP stronghold neighborhoods who didn't come out to vote for the PNC. But the PPP secured their organic base votes plus thousands, tens of thousands more from Afro-Guyanese and a lot of the Indo-Guyanese who were supporting other groups. So the low turnout in the elections is not for the PPP. The low turnout was for the PNC. The blacks did not go out to vote for the PNC. But for the next 5 years, the PPP is going to win those blacks over. Win them over. So we have one party in Guyana. One. And yes, I'm not changing my position. I say things when it's relevant. And today I have to speak against the atrocities that are committed against the PPP and the people who support the PPP by organizations like the GRA and the ERC and these PNC controlled and PNC founded organization. I have to speak out against that. Because the good Guyanese, the good, decent Guyanese are my people. All the crimes that are committed, were committed against the good and decent Guyanese. The ERC doesn't talk against crime. They don't protest against crime. Why don't they blame the government? To say, hey, why don't you put a stop to crime and end to crime? Do that. Stop meddling in politics. That's not your role. Leave politics for the politician. If Norton and these other people want to say something, let them do it themselves. Don't use these organizations to push a certain narrative. The GRA, you deal with human rights. It is a human right for every Guyanese to be safe, to feel safe, to be protected from gun violence. It is a human right of every Guyanese woman not to be abused, not to be killed, not to be maimed. It is every right of the human right of every Guyanese child to be safe, to enjoy, to grow up in a society where they can enjoy the peace. That's the right. That's what you should be focusing on. that these rights are not trampled upon. Whenever something happens as it relates to crime, you should be the first to come out and condemn it. You should be pressing the police, pressuring the state. You should be recommending legislation to the parliament that will enforce and build stronger ties when it comes to the security and safety of Guyanese citizens. That is what you should be doing, GRA. That's what you're paid for. Bring communities together. Go out and protest against violence against women, violence against children, black and black crime. Go out and protest against that. Condemn that. I never come across anywhere where you condemn these things. You need to fire that man, McCormick or whatever his name is. He should be retired. We don't want that old politics that you guys are coming with and keep pushing. We don't want that. This is a different age. We are in that generation where life begins at 40. That generation we are. We are not in the generation of the 70s. So the politics of the 70s, you need to leave it there. Send it back to the 70s. Please, GRA and all these other organizations, please send your politics back to Barnum. He needs company in his grave. Well, not his grave, in hell. He needs some company in hell. Send your policies, send your demons, send your incitement, send your lies, send it to Barnum, because you seem to be serving him still in hell. But for the generation now, we don't want to hear from you. We don't want to see you. We don't want to hear from you. We don't want your opinion. Stay the fuck out of Guyanese society. Retire. Disband the GRA. Dismantle it. You're not the GRA. You're the Guyana. Horrible, ridiculous association. You're ridiculous. You're horrible. You're horrible. You're not functioning. You're not serving the purpose of the Guyanese people. You're only there to make the government look bad. What have you done? What have you done significantly, GRA, that you can say you've made an impact since your founding? What have you done? What's the track record? What did you do to help that community, that country? What have you done? All of these organizations. When the man was cussing out the Indian goddess with a double-day hotel crisis, all of these situations. And when I said double-day hotel, I'm talking about the abuse, the burning down, the destruction of that business and the community. Where were you? You only talked about the lie about this unfortunate situation with the child. That's what the lies. You push conspiracy stuff. But real issues you don't talk about. You don't deal with real issues that are detrimental to the safety of Guyana. Did you come out and condemn the fact that we have a sanctioned man who was running for presidency? Did you criticize Ashudin Mohammed? Isn't it the rights of every Guyanese to live in a country that's not sanctioned? Did you criticize the fact that his father visited the Venezuelan embassy? Did you criticize all the stuff that surrounded the Ashudin camp? Did you talk about it? No. Then what the fuck you saying now? That's what you should have been criticizing. Then we know that you're not biased against the PPP. But everything you have said, it seems as if when you criticize the PPP, you get famous. You get attention. When you criticize the PPP, people are like, wow, yeah, I like this guy. But if you speak truth to reality, like me, it costs you. You suffer loss. Nobody wants associations with you. Yeah, I feel like the folks, I feel like the president. Being president is a lonely position. A lonely position. That's how I feel sometimes. The fact that I try to be consistent with my stand in my support for the PPP civic, for the rights of Indo-Guyanese, for the rights of Afro, you may not, it may not seem like that to you, but I'm pushing for the rights of Afro-Guyanese too. Because of that, I'm a loner. It seemed like nobody wants association. You don't cause, you don't criticize the government, you don't criticize Ali, we can't be with you. So I feel like the president. But if I criticize the government and I push these lies, like jump on the whole thing, oh, look, the GRA said the elections were not free and fair. Then what? I get famous for that? I get like 1 million views because people want to hear what I have to say. If I would agree with it, and if it seemed like I'm not agreeing with it, they're like, oh shit, I know he won't agree with it. He's a PPP. He's a this. I said to you before, I am not a card-bearing member of the PPP. I'm a self-proclaimed Jaganite. But right is right. And we know that the GHRA and all these organizations have conspired against Indo-Guyanese and the People's Progressive Party. Because it seems like whenever something happens that is against the Indian community, we don't hear from them. 2020, why didn't they pressure Granger to concede? Why didn't they pressure Granger? Why didn't all these organizations stand up and say, hey, Granger, you lost, back off? Why didn't they? Have they done it? Then why not? But now you have a free and fair election, the best in the history of Guyana, and these stupid organizations are coming out days after the man got reelected and reanointed, days after, not even a week. I want the world to think that this is a fraud, that the president is a fraud. He's not legally elected. It was a rigged election. That's what you're trying to push. Just a week. And for 6 months, you were silent. You were hoping that the PPP would cave and Granger would have been president still. You said nothing. Now you come in and babbling like a baby, bitching around. We don't want to hear from you. Cut the funding of the GRA, the ERC, and all these organizations that are making public statement, questioning and condemning and spewing these lies that the elections were not free and fair. Cut their funding. Okay? Order the Ministry of Finance to stop funding these organizations because they're pushing for division. They're pushing for destruction. They're pushing false narratives. Stop their funding, cut the funding, reduce the funding, withhold their checks. Say, hey, no, we can't support this organization. The government cannot contribute to an organization that is bent on destabilizing the society. Cut the funding. You see why you people don't want me in the government? Trust me. I don't slime. I don't slime. I have no patience for this shit. You have the international observers who said it was a free and fair election. They concluded, and you have enjoyed the spoils of the Ali government for 5 years, only to come now and say the man is a fraud. He's not legitimate. The elections were far from free and fair. Okay, how far? How far? Were there illegal voters? Did people vote in the election that weren't supposed to vote? Were there illegal voters? Were there fraudulent ballots that were accepted as good ballots? Where are the evidence to that? Did people come from India and vote? Did people come from China and vote? Oh, you like to say that the Venezuelan, yeah, all over the country, you had observers there from every party. How many of them saw people who can't speak English going to vote? You can tell Guyanese from, you can tell, right? How many of them can say that they saw 1,000 Venezuelans go and vote at some particular polling station? How many? Where is the evidence? You people got to stop this nonsense. You lost the first time in the history of the PNC's life. They lose because Guyanese don't want anything to do with them. The PNC crowd that they used to enjoy unlimited support, that crowd grew old, retired, become disabled, handicapped. Most of them died out because they reached the age where they could die. The generation now that are supporting President Ali and the PPP are below 50, below the age of 50. The ones who would have voted for the PNC are above the age of 60. And they are a small group. Now is the young, the youth, the young people now dominate Guyana. The PPP supporters now are from 60 to 16. Sadly, Azruddin Mohammed took away a large amount of your Afro-Guyanese voters. But those voters that Azruddin Mohammed took away, they're also within that age group, 16 to 60. And you see what they did? They don't want to be associated with an aged party that should have retired, which is the PNC. They want the young thing. They want a young thing. Two young men, Ali and Azruddin. Norton, you have to go and campaign next time if you're still there. And I said you need to resign. I haven't gotten any statement that you resign. You need to resign. I'm giving you 6 months to resign. They like to say, Dr. Love Prasad likes to talk as if he's in control. Yes, I am. Yes, I'm in control. And I say I want Norton to resign within the next 6 months. You see, I could say next week, but from now to 6 months from now, he will resign. Aubrey Norton, leader of the PNC, will tender his resignation between now to 6 months from now. When would that be? We're in September, October, November, December, January. By February next year. By February next year, Aubrey Compton Norton, leader of the PNC reform, will tender his resignation from now to February 2026. I said that because I am in charge. And you can spread that. Moving on. Congratulations, President Irfan Ali, on your massive victory. Now, Guyana and Guyanese await the chance to experience the next blissful 5 years of your administration. Blissful. And because these people are against the government and the PPPC, because I realize that I try to be fair and play nice, but you, the Guyanese, see that is unwanted, unjustifiable, unsolicited attacks that the PPP is experiencing now is uncalled for. Though 4 Afro-Guyanese political parties, 4 contested against 2 Indo-Guyanese political parties. One is an amateur Ajuddin Mohammed, and one they labeled a racist. Yet, the two parties that the four was against came out as a victor. That should tell you that the Guyanese people are not a racial people. It's the politicians who use the weapon of racism to divide the people, to push whatever violence they have to push to keep their base. Well, this time it didn't work because the PPP used love, progress, evidence, God, nationhood. They used that and they united the Guyanese communities who voted largely for them. Racism will never work anymore. It's done. It's over. What we need to do now as Guyanese is to root out evil. Root evil out. And we root out evil by getting rid of every, and I mean it, folks, I mean it. I want every, from the average pickpocketer to the woman beater to the child molester. I want every criminal to be rid of that society. All of them. They must be rid of. Murderers must face the death penalty. People who rob with guns must get life in prison. Remove the Camp Street jail from central Georgetown. This thing that this new prison reform legislation that the Attorney General is pushing, I want to see what it says when it is finalized. And I hope it has something to do with getting rid of bail, removing the prison from Camp Street, and making criminals, seasoned criminals, giving them permanent residence in the prison. I hope it has to do with that. It's not about getting people out and you're going to reintroduce them and try to reform them. That shit don't work. It doesn't work. There's no whatever crime is. No. Crime is crime. If the law says you should not smuggle drugs and you smuggle drugs, it's a crime. You shouldn't get leniency for that. The law says do not smuggle drugs. The law says do not go with unlicensed firearm. The law says do not be pushing marijuana. That's what the law says. Laws are there to keep society in order. If you break these laws, violent or non-violent, if you break the laws, you must face the consequence. The consequence. You see what happened the other day with that woman who served time in prison for drugs? She came out, and look what she did. She caused international embarrassment to Guyana, all the way in Sri Lanka. All the way in Sri Lanka. For what? Drugs. Now tell me how they are reformed. Tell me how they are reformed. She went to jail for drugs. You would think she learned her lesson. You would think she went through all the programs in prison. You would think that's what happened. But she got out. Whatever she learned in the prison, got out, connected with whoever her dealers were. Same thing. Caught with drugs in another country. And how do you think they publicize that? Guyanese woman. So I hope these laws that are coming will be harsher. Because there's no reforming. There is no rehabilitation. for criminals. They commit crime is because that's who they are. They are criminals, they commit crime. They can't change. You can't change them. Don't let them go and hide in a church and say they become Christians. No. Let them go hide in prison forever. I'm leaving this point. Kill the criminals who kill people. All the people who are killing people, the state must bring back the death penalty so that they can be executed. Execute criminals who murder people. Execute them. Until next time. Long live the PPP. Long live President Irfan Ali. And long live the future, the blessing, the prosperity of all Guyanese. I'm your humble servant. I'm your precious gift. Goodbye now.